In this gripping tale of love and betrayal, we dive deep into the life of John, a dedicated engineer whose world is turned upside down by an unexpected revelation. As he uncovers the painful truth about his wife Megan's infidelity, John embarks on a journey of self-discovery and resilience. Join us as we explore the emotional highs and lows of this compelling story, filled with raw emotions, unexpected twists, and a quest for redemption. Get ready for an unforgettable narrative that will keep you on the edge of your seat. John was deep into his work, meticulously analyzing the latest batch of test data for the new experimental vehicle his team had been developing over the past month. The work was monotonous, yet crucial, as it formed the backbone of their project's success. His desk was cluttered with papers, datasheets, and multiple screens displaying various graphs and tables. The hum of the computer and the occasional beep from his email were the only sounds breaking the silence in his small office. John had always prided himself on his ability to focus intensely on his work. He was known among his colleagues for his attention to detail and his dedication to seeing projects through to their completion. Today was no different. He was so engrossed in his task that he barely registered the soft buzz of his phone vibrating on the desk beside him. At first, he ignored it, intent on finishing the current section of data analysis. However, the persistent buzzing eventually broke through his concentration. With a sigh, John paused his work and glanced at his phone. The screen displayed a text notification from an unknown number with a local area code. Curiosity piqued, John picked up his phone and opened the message. His initial assumption was that it might be a colleague whose number he hadn't saved. However, what he saw on the screen made him freeze. The message contained an explicit image, a close-up of a woman's private parts, and what caught his eye immediately was a small, distinctive mole. He recognized it instantly. It was Megan's, his wife. Shock and confusion washed over him. Megan was supposed to be on her way to Miami for an important work engagement. They had spoken just a few hours ago, and she had assured him that everything was on schedule. Yet, here he was, staring at an image that suggested something entirely different. The message accompanying the image was brief but clear. Look closely. You still have time. Blue Moon Cafe, 4 p.m. John glanced at the clock on his computer screen. It was already 3:15 p.m. Megan's flight was scheduled to land in Miami at 2:30 p.m., and normally, she would have checked in upon arrival. He rationalized that she might be busy with her team, but the image and the message were too unsettling to ignore. Heart pounding, John decided to respond to the text. His fingers trembled slightly as he typed, "Who is this? How did you get this image? Am I supposed to meet you at Blue Moon?" He hit send and waited, his mind racing with a million questions and scenarios. As he waited for a response, John sent a quick text to Megan. "How was your flight? I'm going out for a bite. Call me when you can." He wanted to keep things discreet while he gathered more information. He couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in his stomach. A few moments later, his phone buzzed again. Expecting a reply from Megan, he checked it, only to find another message from the unknown sender. "I'll be there, but you'll find someone more interesting than me." The cryptic message only heightened his anxiety. Determined to get to the bottom of this, John grabbed his car keys and headed out of his office. The drive to Blue Moon Cafe would take about 20 minutes, but he hoped he could make it in time. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the streets as John navigated through the traffic. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts: anger, fear, confusion. He trusted Megan completely. Their relationship had always been solid. What could have led to this? Who was behind these messages, and what did they want? As he drove, his phone buzzed again. He glanced at it and saw a message from Megan. "Crazy time with the team. Call you later before bed. Love you." The casual tone of her message contrasted sharply with the turmoil John was feeling. He pushed thoughts of their conversation aside and focused on getting to Blue Moon. John arrived at Blue Moon Cafe at 3:45 p.m., his heart racing as he parked the car. The cafe was a popular spot, known for its cozy atmosphere and excellent coffee. He had been there several times with Megan, and the familiarity of the place now felt unsettling. He stepped out of the car and took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. The cafe's entrance was framed by large windows that allowed a view of the interior. John could see a few patrons inside, sipping their drinks and chatting. He walked in, letting his eyes adjust to the dim lighting. Unfamiliar with the layout, he paused by the entrance to survey the surroundings. The spacious dining area lay ahead, with a bar to his left. Choosing a seat near the end of the bar, he ordered a draft beer and scanned the room. His attention was drawn to a man who had just taken a drink order and was heading across the room toward a table of smiling individuals. And there, at the table, receiving a drink from the well-dressed man, sat Megan. She was wearing her little black dress and pearls, her smile radiant. The sight of her, seemingly enjoying herself, sent a wave of anger and betrayal through John. Moving mechanically, John advanced toward the table. As Megan noticed him, her warm smile faded to wide-eyed fear. Undeterred, he continued, determined to get answers. He reached the table and grabbed the well-dressed man by the collar, yanking him backward. Drinks flew as the man stumbled, crying out in pain as he fell to the floor. John recognized him. "Stay down, Kevin," he barked. Drenched and shocked, Kevin obeyed silently. Turning to Megan, John saw the table had gone silent. Familiar faces stared back at him, her teammates, people who had shared dinners at their home. It struck John that team loyalty outweighed personal betrayal, except for the one who had sent the message. Briefly, he thought about finding out who it was but dismissed the idea. He told Megan he was heading home and that she should come if she wanted to salvage their marriage. She nodded, but before she could move, he asked for a moment. "I need to know," John said, his voice trembling with controlled anger. "How long has this been going on? How many times? Do our friends know? Who else at work knows? Am I the office joke?" Megan hesitated, her eyes darting to her colleagues. "John, it's not like that," she protested. "Our plans got messed up. Instead of coming home just to leave again tomorrow, Kevin suggested we stay. I didn't see everyone from the team there. Some stayed home and will meet us at the airport tomorrow. But you chose to lie to me," John pointed out. "You seemed close to Kevin. Is there something between you and the star engineer you'd like to tell me?" Megan tried to stay positive. "Well, for starters, Kevin convinced the bar not to press charges," she said. John couldn't believe her loyalty. "I don't care about Kevin. If he hadn't tripped, I would have hit him. I've been in jail before, it doesn't scare me. It might even make for a good story," he added with a smirk. "Do you love him?" John asked, his voice breaking slightly. Megan paused, thinking hard. "Kevin's not my boyfriend. There's nothing between us," she insisted. "I should have told you about the change, but it seemed minor. Whether I was here or in Miami, you weren't expecting me. I was still with the team, just having dinner before going to our rooms. There was no reason for you to act like that. You embarrassed me in front of everyone," she exclaimed, trying to cover her guilt. John pulled out his phone, brought up the text, and slid it across the table to her. Her face fell as she recognized the image. All pretense gone, she started speaking, and John began recording with his phone. "John, our team," Megan hesitated, searching for the right words. "Is very tight-knit. Most of us have a small group that meets regularly. They were all at Blue Moon. We've been putting in extra hours for the proposal. You know how much time I've dedicated to this pitch. I can't pinpoint exactly when it started, but it was after Kevin became project manager. We worked closely together, and things just progressed." "No need for explanations," John interrupted. "Falling into bed doesn't just happen. We both know that. It's a conscious choice. So don't insult me." He paused, piecing things together. "So, almost 6 months. That's when Kevin joined, right?" She nodded. "The team," he continued. "All of you?" She nodded again. "Kevin mentioned it builds trust and unity. Is that what led you all to form this alliance?" "Now you're being cynical. It's more than that. I feel a strong connection to Kevin and my team, more than ever," Megan asserted confidently. John sensed trouble brewing. "Unfortunately, you may see some changes in your team soon," he warned. "What did you do?" Megan gasped. "John, involving others will only cause more damage. Let them make their own decisions. We need to focus on us. I can't stay silent and be complicit." I care about Mark and Sarah. In fact, I like them a lot more than Hannah and Jim right now, he replied. I texted them about the changed plans. How they handle it with their spouses is up to them. I can live with my decision. John, we have the most productive team in the company's history, Megan practically pleaded. And you benefited too. Just because our team meetings were on Wednesdays didn't mean you missed out. I never denied you access to me whenever you needed it. So I slept with my team a bit earlier. You never noticed that picture, did you? She sneered. That was right after Kevin finished inside me. Yes, he came inside your loving wife. What you don't see is Hannah. She took the picture just before she went down on me. Now you know. If you didn't see it, it didn't happen, right? John listened in shock as the extent of the deception and his own ignorance unfolded. Now, just because you're aware, just because your fragile ego is bruised, you want to throw away everything my team and I have achieved? Megan hissed, her anger escalating. John could feel his heart rate rising as Megan passionately defended her team's questionable dynamics, his own anger growing by the second. For a fleeting moment during his drive home, he had entertained the idea of possibly forgiving Kevin just this once. However, that notion quickly vanished. He didn't need to hear more and certainly didn't want to, but Megan persisted. No, sir, we won't let you off the hook. You're going to text Mark and Sarah back, telling them you heard from me and that we were stranded in Atlanta but have reservations for the morning. That's the story Hannah and Jim will stick to, and you're going to support them. Damn it, she shouted. There are millions on the line with this deal, and your hurt feelings mean absolutely nothing. Send the text, and then we can discuss our next steps. Discuss our next steps? John retorted. There's no discussing it. You're leaving now. You and your twisted team, including your ringleader Kevin, can carry on however you like. We're finished. I'll be contacting a lawyer this week to get the ball rolling. It's a straightforward 50-50 split. You keep your retirement, and I'll keep mine, John declared. Go. You have reservations in town. Use them. Head off to Miami and chalk up another victory for you and your team. John, please send those texts, Megan pleaded, her tone much softer now. If we lose Hannah or Jim before the presentation, the company could lose millions. You and I could miss out on tens, maybe hundreds of thousands in commissions and bonuses. Just imagine all the places we could go with that money. Just you and me. Forget about this and reclaim my loyalty, please. John remained silent, his resolve hardening. John, don't let some irrational concern about meaningless encounters derail us. Kevin says I'm on the fast track to executive status. All I have to do is keep delivering results for a few more years. Don't you want that for me? For us? She implored. Just leave, Megan, John managed to say before he was struck hard in the back, knocking the wind out of him. As he fell to the floor, he felt a knee pressed into his back. Don't hurt him too much, Megan interjected, still undecided about breaking his nose. Kevin, John spat out, glaring at the man leaning in close to his face. I know whose team she's really on. We'll see whose nose gets broken, Kevin smirked back at him. Get his phone and type those texts. We don't have time for this nonsense. Someone yanked John up from the floor. He pretended to be more hurt than he was, making his captor strain to pull him up. This told John what he needed to know. The person was a weak office worker, wheezing from the effort. John was catching his breath, refocusing on the situation. In contrast to Kevin and his polished team of salespeople, John's team worked in the field. They collaborated with the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment based in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. While John's group of engineers wasn't as hardcore, spending time with the crews during test missions meant they were in top physical condition. Guided by seasoned operators, they designed equipment for the most dangerous missions, taking pride in their modifications that contributed to successful operations and safe returns. The members of the 160th and their formidable passengers deeply appreciated the hard work of John's crew, especially Master Sergeant Logan, a legendary figure in their community. Everyone from rookies to high-ranking officers respected him for leading his men through missions worldwide. He was known for never leaving anyone behind, a reputation cemented during a mission in Colombia when their group was ambushed. Logan saw the young platoon leader on the ground, bleeding from a head wound. The medic declared him dead, but Logan lifted him into a fireman's carry, insisting he was coming home with them. The medic, thinking Logan had lost his mind, followed orders as they trekked back to the landing zone through dense forest. Back at base, the medic watched in amazement as the dead lieutenant's pupils contracted under a penlight, leading to emergency surgery that saved his life. Logan rarely spoke, but when he did, everyone listened. He had a special regard for John and his team. During downtime between missions, he taught them basic yet effective hand-to-hand combat techniques. It's better to know something just in case, he advised. The biggest threat you might face is a paper cut or a malfunctioning copier, but you never know where you might end up. If you encounter trouble, you'll have something practical to rely on. But let's hope paper cuts remain your biggest worry. Regulating his breathing, John remembered Logan's lessons. Even when you're taking a beating, you can still fight back. Outsmart your attacker, Logan had said. John subtly resisted, wearing down his captor's strength. Give me the phone, John, Kevin demanded. John stared him down. Now you know I've been with your wife, and every guy on the team has had their way with her. Forget this tough guy act. You're nothing but a weak, submissive nerd. Do as we say, and maybe you'll still have a chance with Megan when the team isn't using her. John's anger boiled over. Recalling Logan's training, he swiftly shifted his weight and twisted, breaking free from his captor's grasp. He spun around, delivering a well-aimed punch to the office worker's gut, doubling him over. The room fell silent as John squared up with Kevin. Don't you ever talk about Megan like that, John snarled, his eyes burning with fury. You think you can break me? Think again. This ends now. Kevin took a step back, momentarily stunned by John's sudden defiance. John seized the opportunity, grabbing his phone and backing away, keeping his eyes on Kevin. The power dynamic had shifted, and John was no longer the submissive engineer. He was a man determined to take control of the situation and protect what mattered most to him. With his heart pounding, John knew the battle was far from over, but for the first time, he felt a surge of confidence. He wasn't just fighting for his pride, he was fighting for his dignity and his future. John's heart was still racing as he held his ground, his eyes locked onto Kevin. The entire cafe seemed to have fallen silent, all eyes on the unfolding drama. Megan, her face pale and eyes wide with fear, made no move to intervene. John could see the shock and guilt written all over her face. He had trusted her completely, and now that trust was shattered. Kevin, recovering from his surprise, tried to regain his composure. John, let's not make a scene here, he said, his voice attempting to sound calm and reasonable but betraying a hint of nervousness. We can talk about this like adults. John's grip on his phone tightened. Talk? There's nothing left to talk about, Kevin. You and your team betrayed me in the worst possible way. Kevin took a step forward, raising his hands in a placating gesture. Listen, John, this isn't what it looks like. Megan and we had a professional relationship. Things just got out of hand. John's eyes narrowed. Out of hand? Is that what you call it? You think you can just brush this off as a minor indiscretion? Megan finally found her voice, though it was shaky. John, please. It was a mistake. I never meant for you to find out like this. John turned his gaze to her, feeling a mixture of anger and sorrow. You never meant for me to find out at all, did you, Megan? You were planning to keep this from me forever. Tears welled up in Megan's eyes. I didn't know how to tell you. I was afraid of losing everything. John shook his head, his resolve hardening. You've already lost everything, Megan. Our marriage is over. There's no coming back from this. The weight of John's words seemed to hit Megan like a physical blow. She sank into her chair, sobbing quietly. Kevin, seeing his opportunity, tried to take control of the situation. John, let's not do anything rash, he said. Think about the bigger picture. We can find a way to make this right. John's anger flared again. Make this right? How do you propose we do that, Kevin? By sweeping everything under the rug and pretending it never happened? Kevin's facade of confidence cracked. We can compensate you, John. The company can offer a settlement. You don't have to walk away empty-handed. John's eyes blazed with fury. You think you can buy my silence? You think money can fix this? Kevin tried to maintain his composure. It's not about buying your silence, John. It's about finding a solution that benefits everyone. We can negotiate terms that ensure your future security. John's mind raced as he considered Kevin's words. The idea of a settlement was tempting, but it also felt like a betrayal of his principles. He wanted justice, not just for himself, but for the integrity of their company. As John stood there, grappling with his emotions, the other patrons in the cafe began to murmur and whisper among themselves. The tension in the air was palpable, and John knew he needed to make a decision. He glanced at Megan, who was still crying softly, then back at Kevin. Fine, John said finally, his voice steady but cold. We'll negotiate. But know this. I won't be silenced. The truth will come out, one way or another. Kevin nodded, seemingly relieved. Let's take this somewhere private. We can discuss the details. John agreed, and the three of them left the cafe, attracting curious glances from the other customers. They found a quiet corner in a nearby park, away from prying eyes and ears. Kevin took a deep breath and started. John, I understand you're hurt and angry. But think about the future. Megan's career, your career. Everything is on the line. We can offer a substantial settlement, and you can walk away with your dignity intact. John listened, weighing his options. And what about Megan? What happens to her? Kevin hesitated. Megan will face consequences, of course. But the company values her contributions. We believe in second chances. John's anger simmered just below the surface. Second chances? What about the first chance you all squandered? You betrayed me, Kevin. You betrayed my trust. Kevin looked genuinely remorseful. John, I regret what happened. I do. But we have to move forward. This settlement can help you start anew. You won't have to worry about financial security. John thought about the future he had envisioned with Megan, the life they had planned together. It was all in ruins now, but perhaps a fresh start was what he needed. I want full disclosure, John said firmly. No more lies. No more secrets. Kevin nodded. Agreed. We'll be transparent. You'll know everything. John took a deep breath, feeling a weight lifting off his shoulders. All right, let's discuss the terms. Over the next few hours, John, Megan, and Kevin hashed out the details of the settlement. Kevin assured John that the company would offer a substantial financial package, including a severance pay, relocation assistance, and continued healthcare benefits. Megan would face internal disciplinary actions, but she would keep her job, albeit with a demotion. John insisted on a clause that allowed him to disclose the affair to a trusted few, including his lawyer, to ensure that his story was heard if needed. Kevin reluctantly agreed, understanding that it was a small price to pay for John's cooperation. As the sun began to set, the negotiations drew to a close. John felt a sense of closure, but also an ache in his heart. The betrayal and the pain were still fresh, but he knew he had to move forward. We'll draft the agreement and have it ready by tomorrow, Kevin said, extending his hand to John. Thank you for your understanding. John shook Kevin's hand, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering resentment. This doesn't mean I forgive you, Kevin. But I need to move on. Kevin nodded, understanding. I hope you find peace, John. With the negotiations concluded, John and Megan walked back to their car in silence. Megan's face was streaked with tears, and John could see the regret in her eyes. But he knew that their relationship could never be the same. I'll pack my things tonight, Megan said quietly. I'm so sorry, John. I never wanted this to happen. John nodded, feeling a hollow emptiness inside. Just go, Megan. We both need time to heal. As Megan drove away, John stood there, watching her car disappear into the distance. He knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he also knew that he had made the right decision. It was time to start a new chapter in his life, one where he could find peace and rebuild his trust. John returned home, the weight of the day's events pressing heavily on his shoulders. He opened the front door to an emptiness that seemed to echo his own feelings. Megan had already started packing her belongings, and the sight of half-empty rooms filled him with a sense of finality. He walked into the kitchen and grabbed a beer from the fridge, then slumped onto the couch. The house was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the bustling conversations and laughter that once filled it. John took a long sip of his beer, his mind racing with thoughts of betrayal, anger, and the uncertain future ahead. As the night wore on, John found himself reflecting on his life with Megan. Their relationship had been built on trust and mutual respect, or so he had thought. The revelation of her betrayal had shattered that illusion, leaving him to question everything he knew about their life together. In the early hours of the morning, Megan returned. She moved silently, gathering the last of her belongings. John watched her from the couch, his emotions a turbulent mix of sadness and anger. When she was done, she paused at the door, looking back at him. "John, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope one day you can find it in your heart to understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. John didn't respond. He couldn't. The wound was too fresh, the pain too raw. Megan sighed and left, the door closing softly behind her. With Megan gone, John knew it was time to focus on his own future. The settlement from the company provided a cushion, but he needed more than financial security. He needed a new start, a chance to rebuild his life and find peace. Over the next few days, John immersed himself in planning his move to Costa Rica. The decision to relocate had come to him during a moment of clarity, a realization that he needed to get as far away from his current life as possible. Costa Rica, with its beautiful landscapes and slower pace of life, seemed like the perfect place to start over. John spent hours researching the logistics of the move. He contacted a real estate agent in Costa Rica and found a small house in a quiet town on the Pacific coast. It was a modest place, but it had everything he needed: a fresh start in a place where no one knew him. He also began the process of closing up his life in the States. He informed his employer of his resignation, finalized the terms of the settlement, and started packing up his belongings. The process was both cathartic and painful, each item a reminder of the life he was leaving behind. John's friends and family were surprised by his decision but supportive. They understood his need for a fresh start and promised to stay in touch. As the days passed, John felt a growing sense of anticipation. The move to Costa Rica wasn't just about escaping his past, it was about embracing a new future. Finally, the day of departure arrived. John stood in his now empty house, the walls bare and the rooms echoing with silence. He took a deep breath, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. This was it, the start of a new chapter. He loaded his bags into the car and drove to the airport. The drive felt surreal, as if he were leaving behind not just a place but an entire life. At the airport, he checked in his bags and went through security, the routine process grounding him in the reality of his decision. As he waited for his flight, John's thoughts drifted to Megan. He wondered where she was, what she was doing, and whether she was feeling any remorse. But he pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the future that awaited him. The flight to Costa Rica was long but uneventful. John spent most of the time looking out the window, watching the clouds pass by and thinking about the new life he was about to begin. When the plane finally landed, he felt a surge of excitement and nervousness. He went through customs, collected his bags, and stepped outside into the warm, tropical air. The sun was shining, and the palm trees swayed gently in the breeze. John took a deep breath, letting the atmosphere wash over him. This was his new home. John's new house was a charming, single-story building with a small garden and a view of the ocean. It was a world away from the life he had known, and he immediately felt a sense of peace. The town was small and welcoming, the locals friendly and eager to help him settle in. Over the next few weeks, John focused on making the house his own. He unpacked his belongings, decorated the rooms, and explored the town. He found a local cafe where he enjoyed his morning coffee, a small grocery store for his daily needs, and a quiet beach where he could sit and reflect. John also took time to reconnect with himself. He went for long walks along the beach, swam in the ocean, and spent hours reading and writing. The solitude was healing, giving him the space to process his emotions and come to terms with what had happened. He stayed in touch with friends and family through phone calls and emails, but he kept his distance, needing time to heal on his own. They respected his need for space and were supportive of his decision to start over. As the weeks turned into months, John began to feel more at home in Costa Rica. He made new friends, joined a local community group, and even started volunteering at a nearby animal rescue center. The work was rewarding, giving him a sense of purpose and fulfillment. John also found time to indulge in his hobbies. He took up photography, capturing the stunning landscapes and vibrant wildlife of Costa Rica. He also started painting, something he had always wanted to try but never had the time for. The creative outlet was therapeutic, helping him to express his emotions in a new way. Life in Costa Rica was simple and fulfilling. John found joy in the little things: the sound of the waves, the warmth of the sun, the laughter of children playing in the streets. He felt a sense of contentment that he hadn't felt in a long time. One evening, as he sat on his porch watching the sunset, John realized that he had found what he was looking for. He had found peace. The pain of Megan's betrayal was still there, but it no longer consumed him. He had moved on, embraced a new life, and discovered a happiness he hadn't thought possible. One day, while volunteering at the animal rescue center, John met a woman named Sarah. She was kind, compassionate, and shared his love for animals. They quickly became friends, spending time together at the center and exploring the town. As they grew closer, John found himself opening up to Sarah about his past. She listened without judgment, offering support and understanding. Sarah had her own story of heartbreak, and they bonded over their shared experiences. Their friendship slowly blossomed into something more. John found himself looking forward to their time together, feeling a sense of connection and hope. Sarah brought a light into his life, helping him to see that it was possible to love and trust again. As John and Sarah's relationship grew, so did his sense of belonging in Costa Rica. He felt more at home than ever, surrounded by friends, fulfilling work, and the beauty of the landscape. His new life was everything he had hoped for and more. John knew that the journey wasn't over. There would always be challenges and moments of doubt, but he had learned to face them with courage and resilience. He had found strength in himself and in the people around him. With Sarah by his side, John felt ready to embrace the future. They talked about their dreams and plans, excited for the adventures that lay ahead. Together, they had built a new life, one filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. As John's journey unfolds, he finds solace and a new beginning in the serene landscapes of Costa Rica. His path to healing is marked by moments of introspection, newfound friendships, and the comforting embrace of nature. The bond he forms with Sarah blossoms into a relationship built on mutual understanding and respect, giving him a second chance at love. Despite the scars of betrayal, John discovers strength he never knew he possessed. His life, once shadowed by deceit, now shines with the promise of hope and renewal. The experiences he endures and the lessons he learns shape him into a more resilient and compassionate person. In the end, John stands on his porch, watching the sunset with Sarah by his side, reflecting on his journey. The pain of the past no longer holds him captive. Instead, he looks forward to a future filled with endless possibilities and the unwavering support of those who truly care for him. Join us as we conclude this emotional and transformative story, witnessing John's triumphant emergence from the shadows of betrayal into the light of a new beginning.